want to talk to you all today about the paradox of growth because it can be pretty tricky. Because growth, more often than not, or I would say 99% of the time, growth is uncomfortable. And as humans, we don't like discomfort. So we can often get stuck and complacent into situations, jobs, relationships, where we become complacent because we don't want to deal with that discomfort. But growth requires discomfort. We actually need that. And when we're feeling uncomfortable, that's actually a call to action to go towards that rather than away. We know that avoidance of things that make us uncomfortable in the short term can reduce that discomfort. However, in the long term, it actually makes it worse, and you have secondary issues like misery, hopelessness, or my personal favorite, or my personal most dreaded, is regret. So you're not going to remember the things that you tried to do and struggled to do. You're going to remember the things, or you're going to be haunted by the things that you didn't do. It's cliche, but it's true. Like when you're 95 shitting your pants in an adult diaper, what do you want to remember? Like, oh yeah, I was really scared about that thing, but I did it. Think about like all the things in your life right now, like the different areas that are pretty important to most people. Like for example, your job. I would imagine you're somewhat comfortable there, but are you growing there? Are you still developing? Are you getting what you want out of it as far as like maybe meaning or purpose or accomplishment? Or are you just going through the motions because it pays the bills and that's safe? Now, you definitely, well, not definitely, but it's great to pay your bills. You got to have your lower level Maslow's hierarchy needs met: safety, shelter, nutrition, things like that. However, when we have an idea that we want to do, maybe there's a better career, maybe there's a business we want to start, but we're too scared to do it. We're too uncomfortable to do it. And we just avoid it by staying complacent. That's the thing that is going to haunt you on your, not your deathbed, but your 85-year-old self shitting your pants self. That's what's going to haunt you down the road. And I don't mean that to try to like scare you. That's what I think about. I used to teach English. I taught English in Thailand for a year back in my late 20s. And when I came back, I decided I was going to get a master's degree and go back to Thailand as a school counselor. But as I started doing that and I started doing therapy and things like that, I was like, wow, this is like really important and this is really meaningful to me. And, maybe I should get a PhD. Because what am I going to regret the most in 80 years? What am I going to regret not doing? So I don't know where I came across this, but Jeff Bezos, how he decided to make Amazon was, I think it's like his regret minimization framework. And he thought about what he's going to regret least down the road. So he thought, hey, I can take a shot at this company. If it doesn't work out, I'll just go get another job. And he's like, I would regret that a lot less than if I just never started a company and wondered what if. Listen, we're all work in progress, myself included. I am trying to live my life more to reduce what if. I really don't want that. And so, long story short, that's what prompted me to go to grad school. I could have gone back to Thailand for this kind of cushy life, but I chose to go to grad school. Not to brag, but I realized like it was uncomfortable and it was a little scary. The fear of failure. I think that haunts a lot of people too, is the fear of failure. But really, though, I try to model it. When I'm 85, I'm probably going to care less about the failures versus the things I didn't do. For a long time, I've mentioned this in other videos, but a long time in my life, I was scared to talk to women I was attracted to. And it used to haunt me. And I still think about those girls that would look at me and I didn't say anything and things like that. And eventually it haunted me to the point until I did something about it. Right? I had to face that discomfort, which is terrifying. But in some levels, or in some ways, really the discomfort is just kind of like the boogeyman in the closet. After a while, you confront it, you realize it's just kind of like a bully pushing you around, and it goes away. And when it realizes you mean business. So think about like, what shots are you not taking right now in your job or your career? The same can go for relationships. Maybe you have a partner you've been with for years and it's just kind of stable. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with stability, but maybe you're unhappy. And maybe you're staying there because of the fear of the unknown. Maybe you're staying there because you don't think you can meet anyone else. Kind of this limiting belief of this is my ceiling of what I can get. And yeah, I think ending relationships is challenging and being alone can be challenging. But if you're settling out of complacency, I'm not here to judge you, but I think that leads to regret down the road. Again, trying to minimize what if. What if I had gone out there and worked on myself and looked for something better? You mean you can make the argument that the grass is always greener on the other side? Sure. So it is a balance. But I mean, if you're genuinely unhappy, maybe your partner treats you like shit, and it's an easier argument to make. So think about that. Like, are you staying in certain types of relationships? It could be friends too. That's really important. Maybe you want to better yourself. And your friends are like, oh yeah, what's the point? You're not going to make it, or you're just being silly. It's that crabs in the bucket phenomenon, when a crab tries to get out and the other crab's trying to pull you down. So, you might have to say, hey, I can't hang out this week, and be alone and work on something with the risk of failure. And the risk of failure is just the price you pay for the potential of success. I really like that way to look at it, because it's true. Like, everything has a cost. And the risk of failure is what you pay to get a better life. Whether that's a relationship, job, self-development, things along that line. I also like to think, I know I'm a little maybe extreme in my viewpoints sometimes, as far as like contrary to society's expectations, as far as like get a job, get married, have kids, things like that. Yeah, none of that really sounded appealing to me. It all sounded like entrapment or lack of independence and lack of mobility. Don't get me wrong. I think meaningful work's important, and I think meaningful connection and love is important, but I think all these like external constraints we place on them, such as like, the 9-to-5 career or, marriage, I think is unnecessary, but I digress. The other thing I wanted to talk about is like, I try to live my life, I said all that because I try to live my life like a book. Or maybe I don't try, but I want to live my life like a book. And I want to look back at interesting chapters in my life. I don't want to have a book, excuse me, I don't want to have a book that it's literally just one chapter. I worked in the same job for 20 years and I was miserable and I complained all the time about getting out of it and I didn't leave it. Or, I settled down with this person because that's what I'm supposed to do. And, they're okay, but, I didn't really want to work harder. Like, that book sounds freaking terrible to read. And that book would just depress me. I want a book that says, I bought a one-way ticket to a country to go do a job I've never done before. Like, that's more exciting to me. And look, I know that type of story is not for everyone, but I mean, the good thing is it doesn't matter because, if you think about what kind of story do you want to create? What do you want to remember? Like, I thought about this too, is, what can I do today to make my 90-year-old self look back and smile? And I think that's really beautiful. And that was one of the things that helped me get over my fear of talking to women I was attracted to, is like, dude, I'm doing this for 90-year-old me. Like, he's going to love this. So it's just trading. I'm getting goosebumps right now talking about that because I think it's so powerful. Like, what do you want to do today to hook up your 90-year-old self? I really think, I just think that's so powerful because it can get you out of your head and it can get you out of, the short-term avoidance of discomfort. Like, I I've tried to, and I still work on it, and I've tried to train myself to approach the discomfort rather than avoid, because I know avoidance is poison. So think about, I encourage you all to think about the things that you're avoiding or the things that you're settling, you know, and in turn not growing. And it can be difficult to think about these things because, and I've mentioned this in other videos, that we want to blame external circumstances and things like that, but you're in the driver's seat. I just think we're not taught to kind of think like that. You can write whatever book you want. Who's who was talking about this? It was Kevin Hart. I don't know. I watched some like motivational YouTube channels, and he was talking about like your life's a book. What do you want to write? I think that it was a clip from like when he was on Joe Rogan, and it's so true, man. It's so true. What do you want to remember? What do you want to be reading when you're 90?